When you miss the version of someone that no longer exists, the grief you feel is unlike any other. It is not the loss of a person. It is the loss of a moment in time, a version of them that lived only within a certain chapter, a version that stopped existing long before the relationship ended. So breathe with me now, slowly, deeply. Let your inhale guide your heart back into your body, and let your exhale soften the ache of reaching for someone who has already changed into a stranger you don't recognize. Missing who they used to be is a quiet heartbreak, one that hides beneath memories, nostalgia, and small flashes of warmth that return only at night when the world is silent enough for truth to rise. You're not longing for them, you're longing for the version that once felt safe, once felt tender, once felt open, once felt like home. That version held you, understood you, connected with you. That version belonged to a time when your hearts were on the same page. But people change, sometimes slowly, sometimes suddenly, sometimes so subtly you don't notice until the distance has already formed. Take another breath and let your chest soften around the truth. You cannot go back to who they were, and neither can they. That version is gone, and missing it does not make you weak. It makes you human. You are grieving the emotional imprint they once left on your life. Grieving the way they looked at you when everything was new. Grieving the ease of conversations that you didn't have to overthink. Grieving the comfort of knowing exactly who they were before life, wounds, choices, or circumstances rewrote them into someone unfamiliar. It hurts because no one warns you that you can lose someone who is still alive. They can be standing right in front of you while you mourn the person they used to be. That is a unique kind of loneliness. The heart gets attached to patterns, to behaviors, to versions. When the version changes, the attachment struggles to adjust. Your mind tries to explain the shift, but your heart keeps reaching backward, stretching toward a moment that is no longer accessible. And the mind whispers, "They're different now," while the heart whispers, "But they weren't always." This contradiction creates an ache that sits deep inside your chest. Let your breath move through it slowly. Missing the old version of someone is not a sign that you want them back. It is a sign that you miss the connection you once shared. You miss the way you felt when you were with that earlier version of them. You miss the security, the softness, the warmth. The person they've become may not offer that anymore. The person they've become may not even see you the way they once did. And that is what the heart struggles with, the lack of closure between who they were and who they became. Closure is easy when someone leaves. It is harder when someone stays but becomes a completely different emotional presence. This is why the grief feels confusing. You do not know who to mourn, the person they were, the person they pretended to be, or the person you believed they could become. Take another breath. Let the exhale release the pressure of trying to make sense of something that is not meant to make sense. Humans evolve, shift, retreat, harden, soften. Sometimes they grow in ways that bring them closer to you. Sometimes they grow in ways that remove them from your life even while they remain physically present. You didn't fail. You didn't imagine the connection. You simply experienced a version of them that no longer exists, and you are allowed to miss that version. Allow your breath to guide you through the quiet mourning of what once felt whole. You are grieving a memory that will never repeat itself, and that grief is valid. The hardest part is accepting that even if they returned, they would not be the same person you miss. You are not fighting for them. You are fighting for a moment that life has already passed. Tonight, let yourself release the pressure of trying to resurrect what is gone. Let yourself acknowledge the truth. You miss a version of them that was right for your heart, not the version that remains. This realization does not make your love meaningless. It makes your love real. And loving someone real means grieving when they change in ways your heart wasn't prepared for. Breathe again, slowly. You don't need to forget the version you miss. You just need to stop expecting that version to return. One day, your heart will understand that you outgrew the version they became, not the version they were. And in that understanding, grief will soften into gratitude, into peace, into a memory that no longer pulls you backward. For now, allow yourself to feel the missing. It's part of the healing. It's part of the truth. It's part of letting go of a version of someone that no longer exists, so you can finally return to the version of yourself that still does. When you miss the version of someone that no longer exists, the ache becomes a quiet companion that follows you through the day and grows heavier at night. You start to wonder when the shift happened, when the warmth faded, when the person you knew slipped away and left behind someone whose eyes no longer carry the same softness. This confusion settles into your chest like a weight you don't know how to lift. So breathe slowly now, and let your breath soften the grief of trying to hold onto something that time has already taken from your hands. Missing who they used to be is a form of heartbreak you cannot explain easily to others. People tell you to move on, to forget them, to let go, but they don't understand that you're not attached to the person standing in front of you now. You're attached to the version that once made you feel safe, chosen, understood. That version was real. That connection mattered. And losing it feels like losing an entire world inside a single person. Your mind tries to rationalize the change. It tries to explain their distance, their coldness, their indifference. But the heart does not grieve logic. The heart grieves experience. It grieves familiarity. It grieves the emotional landscape you once explored together. When that landscape changes, it feels like a home has been demolished without warning, leaving only the memory of rooms you can no longer enter. Take another breath, deeper this time. Let the inhale fill the space inside your chest that feels hollow. Let the exhale release the pressure of needing to understand their evolution. People become different versions of themselves for reasons you may never know. Trauma, fear, exhaustion, new priorities, emotional shutdown, internal battles they will never speak aloud. Their transformation is not your fault, and it is not your responsibility to chase the version that's gone. You are not meant to resurrect what life has allowed to fade. When someone changes, you grieve not only the connection but also the emotional future you imagined with the earlier version of them. You grieve the laughter, the late-night conversations, the inside jokes, the closeness that felt effortless. You grieve the version of yourself that existed in their presence, the version that felt loved in a way you can't quite recreate. That is why the loss feels so big. It stretches into the past, the present, and the imagined future. Let your breath move through that realization. You are not weak for feeling this. You are not stuck. You are processing the emotional death of a version of someone you once trusted. And grief takes time, especially when the person is still alive, still near, still familiar in shape but unrecognizable in presence. The heart struggles with this kind of loss because it doesn't have a clean ending. There is no goodbye, no closure, no moment where you can say, "This is where it ended." Instead, you lose them in fragments. piece by piece, smile by smile, distance by distance, until one day you look at them and realize the version you loved doesn't live inside them anymore. That realization breaks something quietly inside you. But breathe. You are not losing them now. You already lost them long before this moment. And surviving that loss is something you've been doing without even noticing. The longing you feel is a memory, not a path. It is an echo, not a calling. It is the emotional residue of a connection that reached its expiration before you were ready to let it go. Sit with that truth gently. The version you miss served a purpose in your life. It taught you something about love, vulnerability, connection, hope. You are allowed to cherish it without needing it back. You are allowed to remember it without reopening the wound. You are allowed to miss it without chasing its ghost. With every breath, remind your heart that missing a version doesn't mean you must hold onto the person. The person standing before you now carries a different story, a different emotional energy, a different future. And you deserve a connection aligned with who you are becoming, not with who they used to be. One day, the missing will soften. One day, you will remember that version with warmth instead of longing. One day, you will realize the love you had was real, even if the version of them you loved no longer exists. And that realization will bring peace, slowly, quietly, completely.